How's it, everyone? Welcome back. This is the Mac Coast to Coast Show. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you know when we go live. Here's your host, Brian McLemara.
Hey there, caballeros. It's your host, B-Max, and you'll be riding shotgun with me and my co-hosts. Here's Raz.
Yeah!
And T-Mac.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. We got a great one for you guys today.
It's going to be a great show. And before we get started, let's go ahead and hear from our fabulous sponsors. Brotherhood 808, where your friends are your chosen family. And are you ready to brand your business so you can keep the lights on? Then you better give the guys at Brand Ready Media a call. They'll help you out. So guys, it's going to be a great show this week. I'm excited.
Yeah, man. Hey, I just wanted to ask you, Brian, what's up with the cowboy look today, man? You're looking good.
You know, thanks for asking, Tim. You know, back in the old days, they used to be able to tell the good guys from the bad guys by what kind of hats that they had. So the good guys would wear the white hats and the bad guys would wear the black hats. So the question I got to ask you is do you see any fucking white hats around here?
Look like Waylon Jennings.
Right? That's a good look for me.
Yeah,
but,
man.
We got a fantastic guest this week, guys. We got an author, entrepreneur, and all-around motivational speaker. Great guest. I've known her for many years. Let's welcome to the show, Jen Sugarmeyer.
Yee! Welcome, Jen. Aloha.
Welcome.
Hey, I wish I had my white hat. I could compliment it with your black hat.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
We could have a shootout at the OK Corral.
That's right.
So what's going on? How have you been? It's been like years since I've seen you.
It has been. I think I left Virginia, DC area. Boy, it's been probably about 7 years or so, and life has taken a whirlwind. So I'm down in Dallas, Texas, and I'm doing the thing. Life is good.
Oh, cool, man.
Dallas, Texas. That's a fun town.
It is. It
Pete
is.
Bellum.
I was down there last night having dinner. Yep, it's a good area.
Right on. Yeah, I like to go down there, or used to.
Well, Raz and I went by there one time. We did a cross country drive from Cali to Florida, and then we went by Texas, and I really liked it. I thought it was fun.
Yeah. There's a lot of good stuff to do here, and yeah, I mean, a lot of outdoor things as well, and the weather is pretty mild, so you can be outside most of the year, which I like. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, Tim even got searched at the the border there.
Yeah,
crossing into Mexico, or
well, Raz
Drug
drives
dog
by.
went off on the car.
Raz drives by. He's got he looked like Jed Clampett from the what you call it? I can't even think of the show, but Beverly Hillbillies.
like
and,
you were coming in from Oklahoma, or is like another state, and they caught.
Yeah, but
we're stopping these guys.
Yeah, we got like a tarp wrapped around the trailer, and he's going by, and they wave him on by. Come on, buddy, and he rides by, and then I come by in a car with Texas tags on it, coming from Cali. The guys go, "Where you come from?" I go, "Oh, California." They're like, "Whose car is it?" I go, "Oh, my brother's girlfriend's." They're like, "Get out of the car." I was like, "Oh no, here we go, dude. I hope it's not my car. I hope there's nothing in there." So they get me out. They're searching through everything, and just luckily there was nothing in the car. And they said, "You're good, dude. Go ahead and go." So that was a stressed out road trip.
I think they just try to mess with us sometimes. Like I remember when I was driving to California, this was 7 years ago. I moved out there first, and I had this bush or whatever, this plant that I was driving with, and I remember going through the California border, and they were like, "Do you have any plants that you're bringing into the state?" And I was like, "No." It was like next to my head, like, and they were like, "Okay, you can go through." But I was like, I was like sweating. My like, I'm like so nervous. I'm like, I'm gonna get arrested. And they're like, "You can go through." Like, okay. I think they just try to mess with us sometimes.
I think they just try to get you sweaty.
You're riled up.
I think a skunk got hit close by. They thought Tim was hauling a load of marijuana across there or something.
I think so.
Were you supposed to? Aren't you supposed to actually go through the border and not like through the wood, through the desert?
Yeah, I got lost.
Yeah, Tim took a little side exit around it. Might have been part of the reason. Baja.
Yeah, so Jen, I wanted to start out by just kind of getting, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're all about, and for our guests, and that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I was a corporate guru, I'd say, for 15 years, and I was climbing the ladder. And Brian, back when I knew you, that's what I was doing. In fact, I think I met you. Yeah, it was after I got out of Afghanistan. So I spent a year over there. I was contracting with Department of State, Department of Defense, and I worked for publicly traded companies, private equity companies. I was doing the thing, and I looked really good on paper. I mean, by the time I was 30, I had traveled to almost 50 countries, and I don't think there was anybody that looked at my life and said, "Man, she's really miserable." I mean, I had a house, I had just everything. Everything looked great, but the truth was, I was miserable. And the higher I climbed and the more I tried to show my life resume and my work resume, I found myself disconnected from myself. And that disconnection allowed a lot of things to creep up in my life. And I was in my mid 30s, and I looked in the mirror one day and I'm like, I don't know who you are anymore. And I was a blackout alcoholic. I was in and out of jails. I was in and out of hospitals, and I couldn't piece my life together anymore. And there's so much shame and stigma in talking about addictions and just having any kind of mental health struggles. That could be anything. And I think especially in corporate, people are really ashamed to raise their hand and say, you know what, I just need a mental health day, or hey, you know what, I need a month to go get sober. And so we just kind of deal with these things and we bottle them up. And that's where I found myself. And I tried for 10 years, believe it or not, I tried for 10 years to get sober, and I couldn't do it. And my problems had started long before I ever acknowledged that I was an addict. In fact, they started when I was about 12 years old, and I had an eating disorder when I was a teenager. And I didn't realize that I was creating this addictive behavior within myself. But all of a sudden, one addiction led to another, led to another, led to another. And there I was as a blackout alcoholic. And I hated the person that I had become. So I looked really great on the outside. I was running global teams. I have an impressive life. I have a lot of stories, but it feels so lonely when you're disconnected from yourself. And so today I'll just kind of skip to where we are now. I won't leave everybody with a lump in their throat, but I decided that what I'm very passionate about is helping others like myself. And so I've written a couple of books, and I've got coaching programs and all that. So now it's become my life mission to help other people. But anyway, so at a high level, that's kind of where I am and who I am. And wow. I'll let you dig in as you see fit. Lots of stuff to dig into.
Well, I just wondered, what was your motivation to where did you get the strength to get off of it? And I'm sure you had a hard time. I'm sure it was a lot of wanting to get back on the drinking. And so what was your main motivation and help to get you off of it?
I tried everything, really. I tried neurolinguistic programming and hypnosis and Chinese herbs. And I tried all these different things. I threw thousands and thousands of dollars at myself just trying to find this thing called happiness. I even dated people thinking, I'm going to date you and no pressure, but you'll bring me happiness, and therefore I will quit drinking. And I went through this cycle for 10 years. And the thing I kept missing was actually doing the work and connecting with myself. And that's what it all came down to. And I kept trying. I did. And sometimes I'd go to AA for a little bit, and I think one time I had 2 months sobriety. I think I hit 62 days. That was the most I ever had sober in 10 years. And that only happened once. I think usually it was maybe over Christmas at my parents' house or something, I'd get like a week and, 2 days here and there. But otherwise, I mean, I wanted to stop drinking. In fact, I never kept alcohol in my house for more than one day. Like I would go buy it every single day because in my mind, that was always the last day that I was going to drink. I didn't have the desire to keep this up in my life. And there's a song, it's like the last hurrah. Like every day I told myself this is my last hurrah. And yet then the next day would come up, and by noon my brain was so fixated on alcohol. And so, I mean, it just owns you. It gets its hooks in you. And as much as 8 a.m. feels really good and you're like, I am going to be strong today, somehow that noon hour comes by and you're like starting to think about alcohol, and then 5 o'clock and you're out of work and you're like, I'm going to the gas station. And because that's the kind of drinker I was. I was going to the gas station, getting my wine or whatever.
They got the best stuff over there, man. Mad Dog.
I'm telling you, they started to know me too. I had to like go to different ones because they're like, how are you doing? I'm like, this is too much. We can't. This is
You
enough.
need to stock up the Mad Dog, damn it.
Yeah, he's like, oh, you changed your stuff. I'm like, no. We can't have that many.
Too familiar.
Yeah, it's too familiar. I got to space out my 7-Elevens, but thank goodness they're on every corner here in Dallas. But anyway, so, I always had that intention, and I never, the common thread throughout my story is I never gave up on myself. I always believed that I could. And if it was me trying all these things or whatever it was, but I couldn't, I romanticized it so much. And so even when I wasn't drinking and I would go out with people, I romanticized I'm like, I want what they have. And it was kind of like being on a diet, and you see some cake and you're like, I just want the cake, even if you don't really want it, but like you can have it. And right. I always wanted what everybody else had.
Yeah.
And, I think I was already divorced, Brian, by the time that I met you. So I got married early in my mid 20s, I guess. And I was divorced my mid 20s. It didn't last. It was just a couple of years, and I think about 5 years total. But, I didn't date a whole lot because I didn't want people to get close to me. And when I did, when you vibe on a certain level, like if you don't value yourself, why would other people value you? And I would look at these dating websites, these apps, you click, left, right, all that business. And I'd be like, oh man, you're a doctor. That's a no. You're too good for me. And I would look at these guys and I'd say, you're too good for me. And, so I really looked at people and was trying to lower the standards a bit. And with that came physical abuse. I mean, I just found myself in some shitty situations, and, going to work with black eyes and bruises. And so I was really, really in a bad state of mind. And I went through that for a couple of years, and then I was alone for a few years, and it was just, I felt so hollow. I didn't feel like I had close connections in my life, and I had tons of friends, but I didn't allow anybody to see the dysfunction. And I didn't want to date because it was tough. There was just a lot of things, if you're finding these guys on the bottom of the totem pole, that's what you get. Right. And anyway, so I won't drag it out, but I decided, I said, look, I want to be happy. I want to be in a relationship, and this relationship is going to bring me happiness, and I'm going to stop drinking. And so I kind of changed my criteria on the guys, and I said, I found some guy and he didn't drink, and I thought, okay, that's great. And we dated for a few months, and it was wonderful. I mean, I had a, great time chatting with him and hanging out, and it actually felt semi-healthy. And yet I was at the lowest point in my life, and my drinking had gotten it was out of control. And I was still, I think maybe that was the last time I was arrested, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, shenanigans were still happening in my life. And we sat down after 4 months, and we had the talk, and he told me the 7 words that changed my entire life. And they were this. And so it wasn't all the lows. It wasn't all the, the jails, the hospitals, the crazy things that were happening, the bruises, the just forgetting, waking up every morning in fear. It wasn't any of that. It was these 7 words. And he said, Jen, you need to learn to love yourself. And I sat there and I froze. I swear I froze for like 20 minutes. I don't even know. But it was like I saw this 5-year-old version of myself and I was like, oh my gosh, like what happened to that child that was so excited? Like I was going to be a rock star. I'm still going to be a rock star. Let's not kid ourselves. But I was like, you could not have convinced me otherwise. Like I had so much love for myself, even though I was kind of awkward and chunky and big gums and awkward. I was 5, right? But that's what I was going to do. I had so much self-love. And then all of a sudden, by the time I was 12, I disconnected with myself. And I said, you know what? You're not skinny enough. And that's where the eating disorder came in. And then it was just, I disconnected from myself then, and it just went through my entire life. And then I saw this future version of myself, and I was alone. And I was sad because that's not what I had ever envisioned for my life. And I knew that if I didn't get a handle on my life, that was going to be my fate. And it was one of the most loneliest and most beautiful moments. I swear it was like 20 minutes. And I was just filled with all of these emotions, and I haven't drank a day since. And I went, I'm an addict.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank
That is
you.
so
So
cool,
yeah,
man.
thank
Well,
you.
and
very
you're right.
much.
I mean, you have to want to do it for yourself personally, and you have to love yourself, or else, everything else is just kind of clutter,
That was it. I mean, he said those 7 words, and it's not like, oh man, did you just make that up? That's beautiful. Like it's not, it's just,
It's real.
but it hit at the right moment. And, I like, for me, my ex-husband would be like, do you remember what you did last night? Or, like the cops would be like, we're going to arrest you, and there was always, whenever I was approached about my drinking, it was usually in some kind of aggressive form. And this was one of the first times that someone had approached me with just this care and concern, and it felt different. And I was ready. I had dreams that, I just knew. I knew that right now was the time. And in true addict form, I became addicted to learning to love myself. And I committed to myself on that day that I was going to spend the entire next year, the entire following year from that day on, just figuring this whole thing out. And now that's what my 5-step reset plan is, my book that I wrote. I mean, it's become my whole world. And it's become really incredible. But you're right. I mean, you have to be connected with yourself. You can't, there's, and it's tough. It's tough because I know that my parents knew some stuff that was going on, and they want for me, and you may see people in your life and you want for them, but if that person doesn't want it for them,
Yeah.
it
Not going to work.
They're just
Not gonna
temporary
work, yeah.
solutions that you'll
So
find.
were you
And
a
that's-
functioning alcoholic? Were you still working
yes.
at your job, or did you get, I know
Yeah,
a
I
lot
know-
of people that get bankrupted at my work, they're always like, I'm going to lose my job and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, you got to go through the 72 hours and you got to be medically cleared first. And it's, I always wonder how they can keep, paying the rent and keeping a job and,
Yeah, I don't know if that's like and I've always said I was a functioning alcoholic, and I don't know if that's like a clinical term, but I was very high functioning. And, I didn't drink before I went to work. I always maintained, I said, okay, here's my boundary. But the tricky thing with alcoholism is it's a progressive disease. And so what it looked like when I was 18 versus 35 was completely different. And if I picked up a drink today, it would look completely different. I mean, it just continues to progress with you. And I told myself, there's no drinking, while I'm at work, there's no drinking until after hours and all of that. And I remember it was maybe 2 years before I stopped drinking, and I broke those boundaries of the day drinking, but I would do that only on the weekend. I don't think I've ever once drank and then been in an office ever in my entire life. But these boundaries, that's the thing. It continues to get more and more hooks in you. It's such a deadly and dangerous disease. And so who knows what it may have progressed to, or if I picked up a drink today, maybe it would just be constant. But I know that, you know, that's what a lot of my weekends had become. You know, it was just a one bender until Sunday night. And, you know, sometimes I'd even have to set an alarm, you know, just to like, no more drinking, like no more drinking at this point.
I love I mean, I like to drink, you know, I like to have my beer at night and whatever, but I'm the kind of guy, like, I could drink and I can control myself to where, like, can enjoy a couple beers and I don't go wild. But I do know people that are like that. They have that addictive style to them, to where, like, that once they start, they just go off the Richter scale. And and there's this one guy at my work. He was like a cab driver, and he would disappear for like months at a time. He would, like, because he'd start drinking and he wouldn't stop for like a month. Like, he just, you know, it's just a binge of. And that's the problem. Like, see, some people are able to enjoy and control themselves, and then there's those people that they cannot, you know. It's just something that.
Yeah, and I think for us addicts, you know, it's something. I mean, I abuse anything that I can. Like, I will, like, or I have the capacity to abuse anything. And that's, I mean, as benign as like cinnamon. Like, I get on my cinnamon kick and I eat like a pound of cinnamon in a week. Like, in fact, Brian, you probably knew me when I was on those kicks back in you know.
I mean,
cinnamon.
We used
I
to
was
call
on
her
the cinnamon. I couldn't.
We used to call her cinnamon breath.
Cinnamon sugar.
Best smelling addict around.
I mean, like, I get so into whatever I'm doing. I'm either into something or I'm not. And so it can be really good, or it can be very detrimental. And so, you know, it always worked out in the office because I was really into my job. And so I would put all of my energy into that. And, you know, I was climbing the corporate ladder, and I was reporting into the C-suite when I left. And so, you know, it can be channeled in a really positive way. In fact, that's why I had started boxing. I don't know if you remember that, Brian.
I do.
But I had started boxing.
Yeah, I watched the video of you boxing. That was cool. I looked you up on YouTube.
Get ready to rumble.
I'm gonna tell you what, man. Don't mess around, dude.
I don't
She
wanna
will
scrap you,
clean
man.
your
You
clock.
Yeah, I'm cool,
I'm
man. I want
6'1",
none of
so I gotta reach. Yeah,
She
but
will
you know,
clean your clock, dude.
I didn't know how to channel my energy. And a buddy of mine, Ralph, I don't know if you remember Ralph, but Ralph was like, hey, you know, you should try this. And it was something that I just loved. And I had all this anger and frustration and whatever. And so I just took it out on the bag, and it was incredible. But as long as we understand these things about us, we can manage it, you know? And so now I know that I need to stay active and, you know, go to the gym every day. And that helps me with you know, any body image issues I may have that may creep back up again. And you know, once you understand and know yourself, but that's where self-reflecting comes in. And I didn't. And I just was going through life, and whatever came my way, it's like, I didn't have the right boundaries in place. I never thought about that. I didn't have the right structure. I didn't have rules. I didn't think about any of these things. And I wasn't in touch with myself. In fact, I didn't want any feelings at all. And that was a lot of the drinking, you know, it kept me from all that. I didn't have to face anything. I didn't, and all these things that, you know, I thought, oh, well, these are failures, you know, my marriage failed, or, you know, what these things that I had done or whatever. I'm like, well, if I just keep drinking, I don't have to deal with them. So like, I didn't want any part of any connection with myself. And now it is like 180. Like, I don't want to lose that connection at all, because it's so powerful. It keeps me, like, I'm like become the most, you know, one of the most positive people I know. And as soon as you start to disconnect, that's when things can start to creep in, and it's really a dangerous place to be, especially if you're an addict.
So was there any certain person or any books that you look to for help in, you know, finding yourself again, and something that inspired you to write your books?
Well, I've always loved to write. I've written a couple books. I never published anything. And so that was always something that I enjoyed doing. I would say Tony Evans, he's a pastor here in Dallas, was very motivational and inspirational for me just listening to him. He's one of the most real pastors that I have ever heard. And I mean, I was religious to some extent before, but listening to Tony has really brought a lot of things, made a lot of things clear that I just never grasped before. So he was very instrumental. And, you know, I've been in and out of AA and, heard about the different programs. And I wouldn't say that there was one person in particular, but I started, listening to people like Brene Brown and these thought leaders and just picking up on things and looking inward and saying, okay, so what is it within me that I feel like is broken, and having that conversation with myself. And one of the first things I had to address was my anger. And anger, I thought I was fairly happy. I knew that there were some underpinnings of anger, like when I would drive and stuff like that, and I would say really terrible things. Like, I acknowledge that, but I didn't realize how much anger manifested my whole entire being, and I had to get rid of it. And it's a whole mindset shift trying to do that. But once you've conditioned your brain to get rid of that, then you start to see things differently. And so I methodically went through my life and I started uncovering everything. And after about 7 or 8 months of doing this, I said, oh my gosh, I'm actually working a program. I mean, I didn't set out to do this. And that's when I started thinking about Reset, and which actually stands for Recognize, Eliminate, Structure, Elevate, and Transform. And I started thinking about writing a book because my story is unique to me, but I'm not that unique in the sense that I'm the only one that was in corporate America, felt like she was just existing through life, lost herself along the way, needed to reconnect, wasn't happy, wanted love, wanted happiness. I mean, like, that's everybody. That's pretty much everybody. Like, we all want happiness. We all lose ourselves sometimes. Like,
speak for yourself.
Everybody except Brian.
Well, Brian told us last week he had an addiction with macaroni and cheese. Have you kicked that yet?
Yeah, that's it's
and eating off the floor.
She's a dangerous mistress.
I believe it, especially if it's the right kind of cheddar cheese, man. I could do it too.
Well, I'm a specialist in bachelor macaroni and cheese, which is we don't use milk
like
products. It's like you put butter in instead of milk.
Oh.
So
sounds healthy.
It's like it's just powdered cheese, butter.
Oh, you
and
used
then
the
some
powdered
macaroni
cheese
in there.
And that's
Dude,
why
you never got the Velveeta one.
No.
Yeah, he's
he's going with
that you're addicted to.
Bottom of the bin.
It's terrible.
He buys the one he can get 5 boxes for $2 or something.
Exactly.
Nice.
I think they're made out of wood.
But I'm not, my story, again, unique to me, but the things that I want in my life, the things that I was dealing with, they aren't necessarily just me. I mean, as humans, we're fundamentally all the same. Like, we all put our pants on, unless you somehow magically jump into them both feet in. We put our pants on like one leg at a time. Like, we all want happiness. We all, will experience loss in our lives. I mean, as humans, it's just a mathematical equation. And so I thought, if this is working for me, it's going to work for other people. And I knew for about 7 years that the corporate direction wasn't where I saw my life purpose, and that I wanted something more. And I've always enjoyed helping people. And so I finally made the big step. I did things in parallel for a while. I wrote my book while I was still in corporate, and I started putting my programs together and building my websites and doing all that kind of stuff. And then finally, I was going to make the leap in June this year, and I got laid off in March. And I said, great, no better time than the present. So that's when I decided to do what I'm doing full time. And I've got my second book out. It's called Defining Your Boundaries, because I do think boundaries are so incredibly, my Reset book.
That's right.
Yeah.
I was looking at that. So for our listeners,
like a 2-time Amazon bestseller.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm an unemployed writer myself, so I was always wondering, what the big step was to actually get published. I wrote some children's books. I sent them to a bunch of publishers, but I just sent like one to this publisher, one to that publisher, just publishers I found on the internet, and I just never got really any response. I just kind of got negative on it, and I haven't ever sent them in again. So my plan was self-publish, but
well,
I'm illustrating. I'm not the fastest illustrator in the world, so.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to talk about that. Yeah, I'm a big fan of self-publishing. You certainly have a lot more ownership of your rights and things like that, and you kind of own your destiny a little more than when you give that over to a publisher. But yeah, I mean, it's you know, it's so crazy to go to Amazon and type your name in, or you know, go to iTunes and you know, now I've got.
Congratulations on that. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I have my podcast now. It's called Level Up to 2.0, and it's about leveling up to the next best version of yourself. So now I'm, you know, in Spotify and, you know, all the different places. So it's fun to see my name. Of course, you get the crazy with the good. So it's a mixed bag of stuff once you start putting yourself out in the world. But yeah.
So where can our listeners go to listen to your podcast and stuff?
So the central hub of my life is jensugarmeyer.com. So as long as you spell sugar with an E, yeah, I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn. I think I'm on Twitter, a whole bunch of different avenues. But yeah, as long as you spell that right, you'll be able to find me. And the podcast is Level Up to 2.0. And I just got out, my one-on-one coaching program has also gone online, and I'm about to release a new program called the Untouchable Mindset. And it's about how to make your mindset untouchable, which is actually the first step in the 5-step reset process program. But I'm going to make a smaller version just for people that want to do some mindset work. It's crazy. Literally I have. The Untouchable Mindset came about because someone had asked me, they said, man, you're dealing with the situation so well. I said, yeah, well, that's because I'm untouchable. And my friend was like, what? What? And I was like, I'm untouchable. You see, my mind is so strong. And so everything that I do, everything that I preach is exactly in my programs. And I just want to help other people achieve the same thing. So that's what the Untouchable Mindset is all about.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
So what's next for you? What's the next big thing for you, Jen?
My next big thing. Well, you know, that's a good question. I'm working on, I've got one of my books on Audible, so I have to finish the other one. So, which is, I don't know if you've ever done an Audible book. I would rather do an Audible for a kid's book, quite frankly, than because I think that would be a lot of fun. But so I'm gonna.
You don't get to do different voices, like, you know, like the different people coming in, the characters. You don't get to do that.
Well, I do. I wish I had a video of everything while I was doing it, because I can't not like talk without my hands. You know, I lived in Italy for a couple years, and I did sign language forever, and so I like to talk with my hands. And so while I was recording this thing, honest to goodness, so I actually had wrapped a blanket around myself, because sometimes you gotta be a little scrappy. And so I had this like blanket around my whole setup, and I had my microphone in there, and I was in there with my monitors and everything, and I'm sitting there and it almost looked like I was dancing while I was doing this whole thing. So yeah, I maybe played a character while I was doing it, but you know, nobody wants to listen to you do a book like this. Like, that would be really boring to listen to. But so you have to have all the, you know, the inflections, and so I'm like, it sounded a little ridiculous, but anyway, my cat was fine with it. So that's all.
I think you're doing amazing stuff. I'm really impressed.
Thank you.
I mean, really, seriously, it's definitely something that people could look up to, and I'm glad that you're helping so many people.
Thank you. Yeah,
that's
no,
awesome.
I appreciate
Sounds like you're doing a lot of good, positive things, and you know, you got your head on the right track, and you're stoked for you. I hope things go well for you.
It's so different, you know. I mean, I've been on both sides of the track. Like, I know what it feels like to be angry and have negativity and just have that be my life, and to be on the other side of the coin. I mean, just the other side of the track, and I can so easily identify things now. And it's really a mathematical equation. That's what this comes down to. And it's, putting, once you understand and you identify and you take your magnet, your negative magnet, and you put it into a positive, and, you just start attracting the right things in your life, and you identify the stuff that you don't want and you start blocking it out. And I mean, I've literally gone through some really, really tough things this year, and it didn't faze me. That's the untouchable mindset. And so I just want to help others. And, and I also plan on putting together a corporate course as well. So yeah, a lot of good things, but I just want to push out a good message. This world needs a good message, I think.
Well, that's a great mindset to have right now also, because all the, just clutter and all the craziness of 2020, and everybody's like, oh yeah, when January gets here, it's gonna be, well,
That's
first
like
we thought it was
that's like
the
3 weeks
election
away, I mean,
yeah,
not-
first we're like, when the election happens, then the
yeah,
crazy
and then
will end.
wait
And now
till
it's like,
the new year. Okay, well, I mean, it's a new year, but is it really? I mean, it's just another day, honestly. But it's just so much stuff going on. Everybody could use a little
positives.
reset, and positive thoughts and unstoppable attitude. That's an awesome way of thinking.
yeah.
Do you talk about the people's addictions to like their devices? Because I have to tell you, I mean, I recently have tried to not look at my phone because it's not healthy.
Right?
My
I
mindset.
think we all are on it like that. I mean,
When you're talking about addictions, I was just thinking about it. So one of the most interesting, and I haven't done it in a long time. So when I was in the Army, they would sit us in a field, and they would leave us for like 6 to 8 hours with nothing to do, and you got to hang out in this field, and so you just hang out there, and you have this anxiety. You need to be doing something. You're like, man, this is super boring. This is really boring, and then you slow down, and you stop. And then you start focusing on very small things, and time slows down, really slows down. And then you just become, I guess the best word I could call it is patience. So now what I do is I just have
pot brownies or anything.
No, they leave you with nothing. You have nothing.
Couple hits of acid.
That's it. No, but I was thinking like we keep bouncing from thing to thing to thing. I need to listen to this. I need to look at this. I need to go back to my phone. I need to talk to you. I need to eat something. I need to drink a beer. I need to, what am I going to do? I'm just sitting here. I don't have anything to do. What should I do? I was just wondering if any of that comes up, have you.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to make those times for ourselves, and we have to carve out time, even if we fill our days with a lot of busy stuff. I mean, we have to have touch points with ourselves. And so, I mean, I guess you can look at your phone, but I think if we do, this is the one word that I have always hated. I've despised. I loathe this word, moderation, because I'm an addict. I don't.
What is that?
I don't understand it, but it's so true, right? I think as long as we are, having these touch points with ourselves, and we aren't doing these things in excess. My program, I have homework, I guess, whatever you want to call it, but there's a workbook, and it's building on this morning routine and this evening routine, and then how to self-reflect through the day. So that's what I work with my clients on. And, it's in the morning. It's a lot of times it's even asking for support on those things. So if that's something that, you find that you spend way too much time on your phone, it's just asking, into the universe and saying, hey, help make me more aware and make me more, conscientious of my actions around, being in my phone or whatever. And like actually asking the universe for the type of support that you need, whether it be, that or, too much, your anger or your negativity, and just asking for it. And then at the end of the day, self-reflecting and then saying, okay, once I know better, then do better, right? Just do minimal improvements every day. And so if you find that you're being overwhelmed by consumption of social media or your phone or whatever it is, just kind of like wean yourself back some. But yeah, I think anything in excess, and it's so funny because I've heard that my whole life, and I'm just like, whatever. That's the type of personality I have, and it is. But moderation is so key.
Yeah, I agree.
And just being aware of it, is a big hurdle to get over, because a lot of people aren't even aware of these addictions or how obsessed they become with things that, if they just took a step back and realized, wow, I'm overdoing it, let's pull back a little bit and, start over.
Yeah, we get into sort of this robotic state, and I had a CEO ask me one time, he said, what's the best thing that you've ever implemented in your life? And I said it was self-reflecting. I mean, I went for decades without wanting to, look at myself in the mirror. I didn't want to be connected to myself at all. I was just, let me go through the motions. Let me make sure my bills are paid on time. Let me just do the things that I know that I need to do. But in terms of being introspective in any sort of capacity, I just wasn't interested. And as soon as I was, my life changed. And that's when everything started to improve. And I started to look at things differently. And, we step out of our power all the time. All of us are so incredibly powerful, and understanding like the power of choice. Like, you have a choice to be negative or positive. You can look at that, this is so cliche, but you can look at that glass and that is half full or that is half empty. That is literally up to you how you see it. And that's your perspective, and your perspective is reality. And so we step out of our power when we just give that choice away. And I think about like anger, these people that would just make me so angry, why, they're driving erratically, and I'm like, and it might, I'd like be pissed off for like an hour or two, but when I take a step back and I look at that situation, I'm like, I allowed that person that I don't even know what they look like to take my happiness, to take my sanity, to take my blood pressure and do whatever they want to with it.
Right.
So
that's
when
funny
I
you say that, because I have I tell my
it's true
friends
for
all
everybody.
the time. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, but once I started looking at life that way, I'm like, hold on, that's me giving my power away. Then you're like, whoa, okay, I need to step into, my space and own all that. And so, I talk about these different concepts and I tie them together, and it's like, how do you step into that power? How do you make yourself, untouchable? But the only way that you can do that is you have to self-reflect. Like, you have to do the work. That's why, I mean, I spent thousands and thousands of dollars on like Chinese herbs and hypnosis and acupuncture and just all those things. Like, hey, just let me have a quick fix. And it doesn't work that way. You have to get into yourself. You have to do that work. And it becomes like a really beautiful thing. I trademarked this concept called, date yourself. And it's how to reconnect with yourself. It has nothing to do with if you're in a relationship or not, but it's about, getting into, a relationship with yourself, because we don't know how to do that. But, it's how to treat yourself. It's how to connect with yourself. And it's really such a cool thing. I don't know why I fought it for so long. And now I'm like, I'm so awesome. Like,
right. I mean, there's nothing better in the world than finally just deciding that you're awesome. Like, I've had bad relationships before, and you try, and they're like just hounding you, and I'm like, I don't know what your problem is. I'm awesome. I'm out of here.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, I look at my cat and I'm like, look, if somebody doesn't treat me the way that I treat you or that I treat me, you're not worth it. Like that, that's it. Like that's the level, and
so true.
Finding that self-love, it came down to those 7 words. Honestly, I had no idea how powerful they were. And again, it's not like he made that up. Like, you should learn to love yourself. Like, I'm sure, he probably read that that morning, in some blurb that he read or something, and it resonated. But it struck me to my heart, and that is literally the key that unlocks everything. And I had such a disaster of a life, and yet there were also things that looked really beautiful about it. But I was suicidal. I just wanted out. Every time I got on a plane, I wanted that plane to go down when there was turbulence. I was like, oh, good. This is an easier, softer way than, my parents to get a phone call that I took my own life or something like that. Like,
brutal.
That's the headspace I was in.
Well, you know what, Jen? I'm really happy that you pulled through, and you're helping other people going through this, the struggle that you went through. And you know, I think it's really awesome that you're on the path you're on and you're positive now. That's what, you know, it's awesome.
Yeah, it
That's-
feels
that's-
good too.
That's the whole deal with our podcast. Bring some positivity to this world right
That's right,
now
yeah.
because we could
That's right.
sure use it, you know. And I think what you're doing is awesome.
Thank
Yeah, and
you.
I really want to thank you for coming on the show and all our listeners for tuning in, you know. Appreciate
Well-
you taking the time and
Yeah,
what
thanks for
you're doing.
having
It's
me.
awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciated chatting with you guys.
It's great meeting you.
It's great
Yeah,
seeing
you
you
too.
They
again.
can find your books on Amazon, correct?
That's right. Yep. As long as you spell that name right, you can find me. Jen Sugarmeyer is how you'll get me.
And one
You
more
mean
time
there's-
with the titles of your books.
So I have Reset and Defining Your Boundaries.
All right. I'm going to check them out.
Awesome.
Well, kids, it's that time again. And I'm going to leave you guys with a special 7-word thing that changed my life when my roommate came in and said, "Hey, dude, the rent is due tomorrow." I'm out.